We are back and we finally got Trevino on the line. Right, he is here with us and we can get straight into our interview. Trevino, are you here with us? Hello, Trevino.
Hi, Riaz.
Awesome.
Good morning.
Good morning to you too. Good morning to you too. Welcome to the show, Trevino. It is a pleasure to have you. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling very good, thank you. I think I was saying afternoon because we have such a beautiful sunny day today in Cape Town.
We do. And usually in Cape Town, we can't really predict the weather, right? It's 4 seasons in one day. It could be raining in the morning and sunshine by noon, right?
Yes.
But blessed with a beautiful day. And like I said, it's a pleasure to have you in studio. Trevino Isaacs, the principal of Mitchell's Plain Music Academy. Right, so let's get straight into this interview. Right, Trevino, let's talk about your life before founding and leading the Mitchell's Plain Music Academy. I believe you come from a musical family. What was this experience like growing up in a musical family?
Thank you, Riaz. So growing up in a musical family, especially in a Christian household, was, we were surrounded with music. My grandfather used to play the double bass, but not the way we know it in the classical world or even jazz music as playing the upright bass. But he was part of a minstrel band, but a gospel minstrel band where they would march and go to different houses. You know, around Christmas, you see the bands walking down the street. And so he was walking with them and playing the bass, as he would call it. And I was exposed to that, and I was exposed to my uncle who had a choir, a functioning choir, and he used to take me to each and every rehearsal from as young as 3 years old. And so I was always surrounded with music from a very young age.
That is very, very true. And it's such a rich environment to grow up in.
Yes.
And talking about your upbringing, right? You grew up in Cape Town on the Cape Flats.
Correct.
It is very easy to become influenced while growing up on the Cape Flats, right? We all know
That's
this.
Correct.
Of course. So what would you say was your inspiration to be more than just a statistic of the Cape Flats?
I struggle to find words or someone to accredit in terms of inspiration. I think the most important people that played a pivotal role in my upbringing was my grandparents. And I think that's the story for a lot of the youth on the Cape Flats especially, and where I grew up specifically, Mitchell's Plain, where parents or a single mother where I come from had to work, my mother still working at the Mitchell's Plain Hospital, and basically while she was at work, I had to live with my grandparents and my sister as well at that stage. So they've always guided and mentored me, and I think they were the protection that I had to not become a statistic, because they were very hands-on.
Yes.
Where are you going, with who are you going? But also not too strict. They also gave me freedom because they knew that they made, or the way they have reared me was the right way or the best that they could do. And so even though I had friends, that was on drugs and drinking, I was just never that person. And I always find it so weird sometimes that I was the one in that street, for instance, that never smoked and never drank. But all my friends did, so I wasn't easily influenced. But still I had the respect for them. There was no sense of superiority of maybe, because sometimes some people can go back to their communities and feel like, I've never smoked or drank or anything like that, and sense of being better. But that was never the case. There was always mutual respect, because I believe this was this was the friends and the people, the community that I grew up with.
Yes.
But one thing I do want to try and do is change the narrative about the perception of Mitchell's Plain and the Cape Flats. And the best way that I know to do so was through music.
100%. What a beautiful way to do it, right? And we thank you not only from Mitchell's Plain, but all around Cape Town. We thank you for taking this initiative, right? And let's get straight into the initiative. Right, the Mitchell's Plain Music Academy. So from informal lessons in a living room to an entire academy based on investing in the musical talents of our youth. Right, Trevino, tell me, when did you realize that this initiative was bigger than you might have thought it was?
I think around 2015, 2016. was really because it started as informal, like you mentioned, in 2013. And I was, in fact, if I go back as a teenager and as a young boy, I was exposed to then playing with certain gospel artists locally in Mitchell's Plain. And then later on, I was scouted by, back then first called Backchat, a band in Mitchell's Plain. And then later on, they became Take Note, which is a band that is still currently performing with Emo Adams. And then I was exposed, at 15 years old, playing with Take Note and Emo Adams and Lukman Adams and Jag. As a young boy, always the youngest musician among these elder musicians. But they obviously saw something that I probably didn't see at the time, which was the talent and the skill. And so I was exposed to that while I was still on high school. And that was my, I would say, early career, starting on school. And then eventually someone approached me to ask if I offer lessons, and I said no. But they recommended, and I said, at the time I didn't even have formal training. I was just self-taught at that time. And so I said, I will help you with whatever I've learned and taught myself. And I helped this young man, and he had an audition for Grahamstown Jazz Festival, and I helped him with improvisation, and he made it into the jazz band that he wanted to enter. And so because he was happy, he then started recommending a friend, and that was in 2013. In 2014, I found myself then having to offer more than just keyboard or piano, but now they started asking for guitar. Do we do drums? And I'm like, okay, this sounds like a music program. and so I needed to wrap my mind around that. And that's why I always tell people, I didn't start this planning it to happen. Someone asked me for lessons, and then it just started happening. But I had to realize later on that I now had to apply myself in a business way. How am I going to run the school? I didn't have any formal training. In fact, maybe many people won't know, but I left school in grade 11 because I was so in love with music. And of course, my mother wasn't happy because I was doing very good in accounting. And later on then, I decided to finish my matric in evening school. And then eventually in 2016, I knew that if I want to take this music school further, I can't take it further if I'm limited in my education, even though I have the talent, even though I had the skill. And so I then went back to do my matric, and then I then went to study financial management and then also business management at various colleges and universities, and then also went to Stellenbosch University to do music for 2 years. And so because of that training, it then helped me to take the academy from what was 1 student and then 20 students to close to 200 students before the lockdown.
That is amazing, Trevino. What a journey it has been, and I'm sure there's still a lot more for yourself and the Mitchell's Plain Music Academy along with the kids, right? And one thing I like about the Mitchell's Plain Music Academy is the aim and mission of the academy, right? It reads to provide high quality yet affordable music tuition. Right, so since 2014, how have you upheld these standards since establishing the institution?
So initially, even when I started, to be honest, and I share this openly now because it's the journey that we have walked, I did not know how a music program works. I didn't know, because I didn't have any previous friends in terms of a music program. But however, there were institutes that were offering lessons, but I wasn't exposed to that because I was performing mainly. But also because of performing, it made it easier for me to then connect with other artists, because at the time, as I mentioned, worked with Emo and worked with Lukman and some Jonathan Rubens and all these artists and David Kramer on certain musicals. And that then allowed me to access my network of artists and friends in the industry to ask them for advice. And coupling it with the business studies that I did, I could then implement business strategies to accommodate employment for other musicians and artists to start teaching. And so from 1 person to 3 persons employment over to what we have now, 10 staff on staff, and then catering for up to 200 students. So we've grown over the years. Although COVID has given us a knock, I think every organization or business was affected, especially for us in the communities, because in the beginning of lockdown, not all of our students, quite a big percentage of our students did not have access to Wi-Fi or fiber, so they couldn't do online lessons. But now slowly they are starting to come back. And so we are now in 9 years, and we are hoping that in the next 4 years that we would have our own building, established art center, training center in Mitchell's Plain for the people of the community, because our students currently don't only come from Mitchell's Plain, but they travel from Athlone, from Khayelitsha, from Strandfontein, from Tokai, and they all drive to Mitchell's Plain to come and be part of what we offer, because our subjects are theory of music, practical music studies, oral training. So it's university subjects that is offered in the community at an affordable price. And this is just part of our mission to keep, these youngsters and the youth off the streets and to keep them occupied with skills, training, and development.
Beautiful stuff. I was just having a conversation with a friend about a week ago, explaining to him that community centers like the one or the art center that you are planning to open in Mitchell's Plain is what we need in our communities, so that I can take our kids from the streets and plug them into places and into activities, right? That can tap into the potential of these kids, like you were doing with the Mitchell's Plain Music Academy, right? And I'm sure you have students that are now making music in the industry, right? How do you keep them motivated, as the music industry is very cutthroat?
Yes, so it's important that I've had to realize to be a coach and a mentor, besides just a lesson. But I think I've been blessed with the opportunity to be exposed to different artists, to different genres of music. So playing with Jimmy Nevis and playing with the Emo Adams and working on musicals with David Kramer and with others of like sort, Laura Foot of the Baxter CEO and Mark Lothering. So that has afforded me to be in different spaces and take that knowledge and take those environments and guide our students into what the music industry is from a practitioner within the industry, and guide them to avoid certain pitfalls, mentor them in which way to go, encourage them to write their own songs and produce their own music, because our students or our people have something to offer to the world. And so we try to encourage them to write their music, and they have a voice that can be heard. Because I must tell you, the Cape Flats, I'm sure you know, and even Mitchell's Plain, they are ripe with great singers and naturally gifted musicians and artists and dancers as well, and actors. So it's our responsibility then to nurture and to give them the necessary tools and empower them with what they need to take it to the next level. And we've been able to do so for the past 9 years, self-funded. We haven't had any funding from any organization. So our next phase is to see if we can tap into, as a NBC, to funding, to take us to that art center, to build that art